What's up, guys? Today we're talking about The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. Hey guys, I'm Tyler. Welcome back to my channel, and today we're talking about a series which I really love, and you know, it's something that has been around in some variation or another since the 80s, and that would be The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. This actually was brought back because of Shudder. They did what was essentially supposed to be the last one ever, and it was like a big marathon, which then turned into them doing a Thanksgiving marathon and then a Christmas marathon, and then just deciding to just bring back the show. So there was about, I think, like 2 months of shows. They do a double feature every Friday. It actually ended this past May 24th. But thankfully, they've announced that this will be coming back for a second season. I've noticed a trend lately, like in TV over the last several years, of if something made it to the second season, it'd be a lot more likely things would go on, but things are making it to the second season and then cut off. It's been happening just all over the place, and so just the fact that Joe Bob Briggs got a second season doesn't guarantee a third. So I really just wanted to get the word out there about this show, and this won't be dropping until June, so I'm going to actually I'll put a little thing at the end of the video if they have a date for the new season, but as of now they don't have a date for the new one. But I am so excited for it because there's something about the format of just what Joe Bob Briggs has done, going all the way back to his, TNT days? Hope it's TNT and not TBS. I fucking mix those two up all the time. I think it was TNT. Growing up, I always loved catching those, and I wasn't completely obsessed with them until college. Except YouTube was a little different when I was in college, in that you might be able to find full-length stuff of this, but usually it was just clips. And so I would just always see clips of Joe Bob talking, and he has such a knowledge of the horror genre and such a love for it that it's really infectious. And I love listening to him talk, even on his little tirades where you're like, wait, does this have anything to do with what's being said? Like what this movie is about? And then he brings it back around, and I enjoy that. It especially when there's some moments where you're like, wait a minute, how is he going to bring this back around? He seems like he's like getting political on something, or just talking like an old man, where you practically think he's senile. But that's kind of part of his shtick, and I really like that. For those unaware, the format of a Joe Bob Briggs show is that he'll introduce it, and instead of commercial breaks, there will be breaks in the movie, except it'll be him talking for like 5 minutes just about either an aspect of the show or doing viewer questions, which I believe they call viewer mail, even though it's just like Twitter. But I love that. Speaking of which, so they have this girl, it's called Darcy the Mail Girl, and I was like, why do they treat her like she's I don't know, Joe Bob treats her like she's very promiscuous. And I mean, obviously she has like her boobs pushed up and all this stuff, and for the longest time I was like, I don't get this relationship. And then I discovered that, apparently Darcy the Mail Girl used to be a porn star. Are they ever really like out of the biz? But she used to be a porn star. So that's I feel like that's just even more related to the horror genre, because the amount of porn stars that are in horror movies, I feel like it just skyrockets more than like any other genre, and it makes sense. So I get a kick out of the fact that she's Darcy the Mail Girl. Yeah, there's just a lot to really enjoy about Joe Bob Briggs and how the show really just comes together, mainly because it's always such a nice mix of different films. Just from this first season, I've caught like Q the Winged Serpent, Chud, Maniac, or not, it was Wolf Cop. I think Maniac as well. That may have been a past one, but I'm pretty sure it was Maniac that was on there. I love catching all these different films where you're just not expecting, like you maybe wouldn't have watched them without those little breaks where you get a little insight from Joe Bob. It just doesn't have quite as much interest. Like I know that was the way with Q the Winged Serpent. Q the Winged Serpent. Oh, shit's so difficult. But I know that with that film, I probably would have shut it off if I hadn't been watching the Joe Bob version, just because it's very slow and just wasn't really my cup of tea. And so it honestly, for like slower, kind of boring horror films, this really, really helps. Like, really helps. One thing that with this first season that I kind of want to switch around for the second season is the first season I wasn't really able to watch it live and therefore participate in like the Twitter conversations and things like that. But this next season, and it was mostly just because, you know, life got in the way. And so if I can allot that time, I'm really wanting to actually watch them live, just because it's so much fun to be able to discuss these things. That's why I created this horror channel, is to be able to talk about these things with you guys. And so I think watching this show live in particular both helps it in terms of it helps raise the visibility and makes it even more likely that we'll get a third season, because again, this is all just preemptive. There are these great shows, non-horror, like The Mick and AP Bio, that like got renewed for a second season and then got canceled because it's like, oh, once you got the second season, you kind of are just like, oh, it's just kind of there. And like, I'm guilty of it, where like I won't watch something live. I'll just like catch it after the fact. Outside of Game of Thrones, I can't remember the last show that I was like, I need to see it when it airs otherwise. But so, and especially with these kinds of shows, like something like Joe Bob, because it's movies that have been out for a while. And so it's not like you're going to have some of these things spoiled for you. So I understand that. It's that the priority might not be huge, especially because, I mean, it's a Friday night. Not everyone doesn't have a life. Like, that doesn't always happen. But for someone that's very movie oriented, which I would assume, especially horror movies, like I would assume that you are as well if you're watching this. So I'm just really making this to encourage you to join me in watching this second season live and joining the conversation and just enjoying, because this is just a format that I've always loved. There's people that Mystery Science Theater is like their thing. They love it. They love the commentary over it. But for me personally, I like that conversation about the films. And so getting the little break, just like my big thing is like, how did this get made? It's a podcast. And so like, it wouldn't be the same if it was like over commentary. So the fact that like just the format of Joe Bob Briggs has just always appealed to me, because it's something that just aligns with my interests and how I want that content given to me. When you're watching something and there's commentary to it, you kind of get like, you want to pay attention to this, but then you're also paying attention to like what the people are saying. So then a moment might be funny because of what the commentators are saying, even though it's a different kind of funny when you're actually watching it yourself. So that's why I really like Joe Bob, in that there's these like little commercial breaks that I get such a kick out of. And oh, before I forget, he does these drive-in totals, which I think, is it the drive-in tally? But anyway, either way, it's just a bunch of ridiculous things that are like happening in the film, where like out of context, you're just like, wait, what? This is actually going on in this? Because sometimes they'll pick like really random stuff, but a lot of the time it'll be like showing like, or saying like a number of kills or the amount of tits in it, like just random things like that. So it's fun. It's really just a good time. And I can't encourage you guys enough to give this a shot, because it's amazing. And no, this video is not sponsored by Joe Bob or Shudder, which is the service that you can subscribe to be able to get Joe Bob's Last Drive-In, The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. I fuck up that goddamn title all the time. Beginning of this video, I thought it was called At the Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs. I can't get my shit right. I can't. I don't know. Maybe one day I will. Maybe one day. Yeah, make sure you get that Shudder subscription. This is going to be like another ad. This is just like the non-sponsored ad portion. So if you love horror movies, definitely check out Shudder. It's incredible. They have so many classics. Then they also have just a lot of hidden gems, which is just so great. Because, I mean, Shudder's how I was able to watch the Phantasm series. Speaking of which, I can bring this right back around. So was it the Thanksgiving one? No, I believe it was the Christmas. I think it was the Christmas marathon that Joe Bob did, that did all the Phantasm films, other than number 2 for some reason. I assume that's just a rights issue. I watched all of those, and I'd only watched the first one, and I loved the first one so much that I didn't want to ruin it by watching the other ones, because especially with number 2, I've heard that it kind of subverts and like kind of changes things where it might ruin stuff from 1. So maybe the exclusion of not seeing 2, maybe that like really helped. But either way, combined with Joe Bob's commentary, so hard to be able to like say that, because obviously commentary makes it seem like they're talking over the film, but whatever. Words are hard, okay? Words are hard. I love the whole setup they just did. Joe Bob is just fucking incredible. He's incredible. That's really all there is to it. Yeah. Hope that you guys... Oh, I was fucking trying to sell essentially the Shudder subscription, then went fucking crazy. So, I am all over the place today. That's just how it is. But yeah, get a Shudder subscription. They're like $4.99. I think if you do a year, it works out to like $3.99. It's something insanely cheap. So I really just can't recommend it enough. And so please check out Shudder and check out The Last Drive-In with Joe Bob Briggs, because it's fantastic and you will not regret it. But that's all for this week. I'm going to go catch up on some Last Drive-In while I edit these videos. I'll see you next week. Hey friends, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff, and check out this video that YouTube thinks that you would like. Holy shit. Oh, I've had that, like, it's like a tickle in the back of my throat the entire time I've been talking here. Oh, and it's about to come. I need water. Whew. There you go. You guys have been asking for bloopers, so I'll fucking throw this thing on the end of this video because I'm a fucking idiot.